Okay, so uh, this little video is meant to help us understand about multiplying and dividing integers. And it starts with a little story. And this story begins at sea. So here's the surface of the water. And what we have here is we have a submarine. So here's my cheap picture of a submarine. This is a little periscope. And when you're at sea, your elevation above the land as well as under the water is always starts at the surface of the water. So this is elevation of 0. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw a line. And this submarine, it's going to start to dive. That means it's going to start to go down. It's going to move in a downward direction, and it's going to move down 10 meters every minute. So I'm going to show it like this. So here's 1 minute, here's 2 minutes, here's 3 minutes, here's 4 minutes, and for each minute that goes by, it goes down 10 meters. And so that means 10 meters below the surface, so we're going to represent that with a negative 10. It goes 10 meters below the surface. So as this thing descends, what I want to find out is how far will it have gone down after 4 minutes. So what's my depth after 4 minutes? Well, if I'm descending 10 meters each minute, after the first minute I'll have gone down 10 meters. And to that, after another minute, it's going to have gone down another 10 meters. After 3 minutes, it's going to have gone down another 10 meters. And after 4 minutes, it's going to have gone down another 10 meters. So I've got this negative 10 plus negative 10 plus negative 10 plus negative 10. And this looks like the problems we've done before. So I can see after 10 minutes, it looks like it's gone down negative 40 meters. But I also know that I'm repeating my addition here. And repeated addition is simply what multiplication is. And notice I have 1, 2, 3, 4 negative 10s. So I have 4 of these. So if I simply multiply 4 by negative 10, one thing I need to notice here is that 4 is positive, and negative 10 is negative. This number is negative. And a positive number times a negative number is negative. So 4 times negative 10 is negative 40. In this case, negative 40 meters. Now that actually is similar to something we've been doing earlier in the year, because this is a rate. So I went down 4 minutes, right? And I was going down 10 meters a minute. So that's a rate. Meters per minute, 2 units. And look, I can cancel out my minutes because one's on top and one's on bottom. And again, 4 times a negative 10 is negative 40. But then I have the units here. So in this case, I've used multiplication to show my repeated addition. And I see that a positive times a negative gets me a negative. And we're going to take advantage of that. One question we could ask is, well, what about this stuff that's above the surface of the water? Now that one's a little different, because in order to see that, what we have to do is actually imagine ourselves going backwards in time. If we started at 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, here we are at 0 minutes. If I kept going, I would be going back in time, and this would be negative 1 minutes, negative 2 minutes. And you can see now that I'm actually above. I'm actually above the surface of the water. But the part here that we need to keep in mind is that what we're describing is the submarine. And the submarine, in this case, is descending negative 10 meters a minute. So this is the rate I'm going. In this case, if I was to go back 2 minutes, I would be at negative 2 minutes. Kind of an awkward thing to think of, but I have a negative times a negative, and lo and behold, a negative times a negative is a positive. And So that's imagining that the submarine has actually floated up. It's gone backwards in time. The thing to note here, though, is it shows how a negative value times a negative value does equal a positive value. And so, to sort of combine all this into what's we're needed to do the computation, we need to notice this. We need to notice that when you have a negative times a negative, that's going to equal a positive. And the same thing works with division. A negative divided by a negative is also a positive. If I have a positive times a positive, that's going to equal a positive. And if I have a positive divided by a positive, that's going to equal a positive. So we should notice that when the signs are the same, the answer is positive. So when the signs are the same, the answer is positive. But when we have a negative times a positive, when the signs are different, we get a negative. When we have a positive times a negative, we get a negative. And again, it works for division as well. A negative divided by a positive is a negative, and a positive divided by a negative is a negative. We could sum all this up briefly this way. If I make myself a little chart that looks like this, kind of a tic-tac-toe arrangement for multiplication and division. So I'm talking about multiplying and dividing. I either have a positive number or negative numbers. So when I have a positive number times a positive number, I get a positive answer. When I have a negative number times a negative number, I get a positive answer. If I have a positive number times a negative number, I get a negative answer. When I have a negative times a positive, I get a negative. So when the signs are the same, you get a positive. When the signs are mixed, you get a negative. And just as a couple quick examples, I might do negative 5 times 3. I just think of 5 times 3 as 15, and I have mixed numbers. So a negative times a positive, negative 15. If I had 28 divided by negative 4, well, 28 divided by 4 is 7. Positive divided by negative is negatives, negative 7. I hope this helps. This is what you'll need to use this tool, though, in order to do the work that you'll be doing in the near future. Hope this helps.